During the Hundred Years' War, the French and the English both employed mercenaries to fight for them, but in times of peace, these mercenaries, or free companies, were left without pay, so just began to ravage the land and rob the population. For instance, after peace was made in 1360, a group called Venus began to ravage the land around Lyon, and even beat back a royal French army. Plus, in 1362, they laid siege to the papal city of Avignon, but were beaten back by the Spanish. And nearly a century later, Rodrigo de Villandrando, a Spaniard, was called the Emperor of the Pillagers because he had an army of 10,000 men and would ransack country homes and hold petty nobles for ransom. These roving bands of ex-mercenaries were called flayers or routiers, and they were almost as destructive as the war itself. Now, the French often just called them the English. However, they came from all over Western Europe. But to try and curb their destructiveness, the French tried to create a professional army. At this time, only the Ottomans had a professional standing army, so this was incredibly revolutionary in Western Europe, because with a standing army, you need to increase taxes, improve logistics, that sort of thing. So it helped pave the way for a modern centralized state, and it was pretty successful. The company d'ordonnance was set up in the mid-15th century after the Estates Generals restricted recruitment to the king alone, and they did offer mercenaries the chance to join them or be hunted down. So their first act was to target all the mercenaries that were still ravaging France and then wrap up the 100 Years' War. Now, the composition of this army, of course, changed over time, but generally speaking, you had 20 companies, and each company had about 600 to 700 men, but they were largely cavalry units, so that's about 100 lancers backed up by squires and men-at-arms. In order to pay for this army, they introduced a new tax, and to get more people to join up as archers, what they did was offered civilians exemption from the tax, so it had a sort of double benefit there. However, the bulk of the infantry was still recruited as city militias. Well, they did maintain some mercenary units like the Swiss Guards and the Scots Guards, but this marked a great shift in France, and they started having a large professional standing army. However, over in England, this whole process would take a couple more centuries. In fact, the Glorious Revolution of the 17th century, which saw James II deposed in England, was partly caused because the English saw his creation of a standing army in peacetime as a sort of sign of French or Catholic authoritarianism.